Hey, good morning, friends. It's me, Shaliza. I know it's a minute since I've posted, been online, or anything like that. The truth is, about a month ago, I preached at a woman's event, and I preached for 2 days. It was wonderful. The Lord showed up. It was wonderful because of me. It was wonderful because of Jesus. And since then, it was like an unleashing of hell. I had been under severe attack. I had a lot of issues with my voice. Wasn't able to talk. I felt very sick, as if I had COVID, but I didn't, and it lasted for about 2 weeks. And I was flat on bed, and at that time, my husband and I and my child, we were preparing to go on a pretty big vacation, requiring a lot of hours of flying and so on, and a lot of touring. And I kept saying, we're going to have to cancel. We're going to have to cancel. There's no way we can make it. But you know what? The Lord healed me hours before I had to go. And it just reminds me that no matter what situation you're in, no matter how things look in the natural, when you cry out to Jesus, he will come. He will show up. It may not happen when you want, may not happen how you want, because the truth is, I didn't want to be sick, period. But he did still show up, and he delivered me in the right time, in the nick of time, and I got out of that sickness, and I'm healed and made whole, as you can see today. And I did get to go on my great vacation, so praise be unto the Lamb of God. With Passover being celebrated at the end of this month, I find myself rereading the story of the Exodus. And my two favorite books of the Bible, I know a lot of people think it's Revelation because I wrote a book on Revelation, but it's actually Genesis and Exodus, because I feel like most of the questions we have in life, or most of the questions we have in the Bible, can be answered in those two books, Genesis and Exodus. And in reading the story of the Exodus, I find such a parallel between Jesus and Moses. I think about the situation of how the Hebrews ended up in Egypt. And I will probably do another video on that, because that's going to take some time. We know that they came because Joseph was there, and Joseph was the prime minister in charge of the grain, and the Lord allowed that whole Joseph thing to happen because he saved the entire Hebrew race through Joseph being in Egypt, being in charge of the grain. So they started off in Egypt that way. Things were good. Then Joseph died, and things turned pretty bad. And we know that they were enslaved and they were treated really badly. And again, I'm just scratching the surface. There's a lot of deep details there, but even though they had been in that situation for 430 years, they cried out for a deliverer, and the Lord sent Moses. And it may not have happened when they wanted or how they wanted, but it did happen. They were delivered. And there's so many similarities between Moses and Jesus. They were both born during times when babies were being killed. They both spent time in Egypt. We know that Jesus would have spent a portion of his childhood in Egypt, basically in hiding for when baby boys were being killed. They were both raised up as deliverers. They were uncanny people that were raised up as deliverers to their people. They were both given by the Lord Gentile brides. Moses was married to a Midianite, and we know that Jesus, his bride, is us, the church, the Gentile church. And the similarities go on and on and on. They both were with their people for a period of time, and then they left, and then they returned. We saw that Moses, when he killed the Egyptian, he fled to the desert. We see that Jesus, he had his earthly ministry, then he went to be with his Father, and then they both returned. Moses came back to deliver them, and Jesus will come back and take us in the rapture. And the parallels go on and on and on. And you know, there's a very strong teaching that during the time of the tribulation, when the two witnesses return to the earth, many people believe it will be Moses and Elijah. Some believe that it will be Enoch and Elijah, but some do believe that it will be Moses and Elijah, because Moses and Elijah were seen next to Jesus on in the Great Transfiguration. So Moses could possibly return to the earth. And there's so much, so many deep parallels between Moses and Jesus. And the main thing, if you want to read more about that, you can get a copy of my book. But the main thing to remember is that when you cry out to the Lord, deliverance will always come. Jesus will always show up. So remember that today. No matter what you might be in, no matter what was going on, When you cry out for deliverance, he will show up. It may not be how you want and when you want, but he will show up, and he will work it out for his glory and your best life.